Welcome everybody. So I'd like to introduce you to a concept that when I first heard of it, it sort of like scared me out of my mind. Now this is a book. This is a book called as The Fountainhead, which Ayn Rand has written. This woman, she talks about something that refutes a lot of things that we've been brought up with. She basically talks about one very important word, self-interest, and in some ways she asks a human being to be selfish, and she specifies that in order for a human being to reach his happiness and to reach his own satisfaction, all he needs to do is place his own happiness before other things. She's somebody who's a complete she's all for free market system. She's somebody who does not believe in subjectivity. She's a complete objective personality. Now, whenever somebody says Ayn Rand, I think there are two very polarically different reactions that one sees. One are people who are like pro Ayn Rand and I love what she says kind of people, and the other ones who are totally skeptical with what she's saying. Now, something about great philosophers, whether it is say Socrates, I mean whatever we know through Plato, whether it is Karl Marx, or whether it is somebody like her, you need to always remember that they also come from a story or come from a background, and their experiences are also sometimes something that you need to make their circumstances also matter a lot. Now, in today's modern day society where everything seems to go in a fast, rapid fashion, somewhere the technology is changing, we are talking about cryptos, NFTs, God knows what, and at the same time we are also consistently fighting this battle both with ourselves and with other people, whether or not we can live together as a society. I mean, my basic question here is that marriages are crumbling faster than ever, family system is deteriorating more than ever, communal violence is also spreading, and there's a lot of it that's happening around the world. Now, all of it seem like something which is, I wouldn't say a pessimistic or a negative world, but these don't look like great signs either. Now, for a world like that, something which Ayn Rand said made a lot of sense to me. Now, whatever she said to me initially when I first read it, it was like, oh my God, I am not buying any of it. Because I think for somebody like us who are brought up in a system where you're constantly told, you know what, be nice to other people, you know what, she doesn't ask you to be negative to anybody, but she's also telling you that place yourself first. And when we are brought up all through our childhood, the first thing that you're taught is that, you know, whether it is the Annadana Seva or say suppose trying to help somebody else, somewhere there is a certain amount of service attitude, or there is a certain amount of selflessness with which we are brought up. And every single day, you always sort of make a hero out of an army officer who's given his life. You always see that heroic bravery whenever we are talking about in that context. We are always saying it in a way where we are constantly trying to say that, you know what, he was so selfless, what a hero this guy is. Whenever we are talking about Major Sandeep Unnikrishnan, or recently whatever the other film was, or you know, even that famous film where you're talking about Captain Vikram Batra in Sher Shah, you are glorifying all of these people, beautiful people who have given their lives for all of us. Well, this is one way to look at heroism, this is one way to look at bravery, celebrating selflessness. There's another way where she says that man needs to satisfy himself first, which also makes a lot of sense to me. Because let us take the example of how society functions in terms of our day-to-day lives. Women, right? Your mothers, your wives, they have spent a lifetime just nurturing you. Have you ever realized something that if your mother makes 4 chapatis, she will always keep the burnt one or the least delicious one for herself, and she'll always give you the most tastiest one to you and to your father, and she'll always keep the ones that is slightly burnt or slightly not great to herself. Now, this is something which is heroic and great, but at the end of the day, you realize 30 years later, 40 years later, a woman wakes up and she's like, I think I've lost myself. And I think that's something that she's trying to say. One of my favorite things about Ayn Rand is that as much as she sounds extreme, now whenever you say selfish, sounds extreme, right? But at the same time, she doesn't advocate for anything negative. That means hurting other people or trying to go against another person, never. What she really tries to say is that your happiness is your responsibility and you should live your life based on what you like and what you want to do, and at the same time you should allow another person to do what he wants to do, what she wants to do, the way they want to do. So somewhere I feel like, although if I am interpreting it in my own language, I am feeling whenever I read something of her, it is my interpretation that somewhere I feel like she's somebody who's a very emotionally detached person, and I see her as somebody who is also somebody who's just, I don't know, scared of expectations. Sometimes I feel like that because whenever I see people, they're usually the demotional, the detached people, and usually the people who are slightly scared of being hurt, getting hurt, slightly scared of losing themselves because of another cause, are the ones who are mostly putting themselves out there and saying that I come first. There is nothing wrong in that. In fact, there is so much beautiful about it. I think Ayn Rand, I think I must have said this in another video as well, and I think there's something that I constantly tell to our students as well, that a lot of the times we are figuring out what to do for another person, what to do where, but at the end of the day, find a place where you're happy, find a place, whether you're working, whether you're doing something, whether you're challenging yourself, find something that where you are also being satisfied, because at the end of the day, if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. If you're not happy yourself, you can't make anybody else happy. If you don't respect yourself, nobody else will respect you. So somewhere I feel like more than her objective reality and her analysis, I feel like these subsidiary points that she said made unbelievable sense to me. Now, Ayn Rand and her books. Well, what do I make of it? I don't know. I think I don't look at it as a deeply philosophical book, honestly. Although this is philosophical, a lot of people find it very scary also. But for me, this is a novel. And I love how she made sure it's a novel, because at the end of the day, whenever you're communicating an ideology to another person, stories are the way to go. If you want to tell somebody a story of truth, triumphs evil, you tell them of a Ramayana or a Mahabharata. No matter how many essays and how many points you write, nothing is getting into their head. Only a Ramayana or a Mahabharata or some picturization of a demon being beaten by a god is going to get into their head. So stories is the way to go. Now, why is Ayn Rand important to us? Well, there are few people, you agree or disagree with them, you should still know what they're saying, because their perspective is very important to us. So I feel like there are few people you have to read about them and read what they have to say about life and about people in general. Ayn Rand, Karl Marx, then Socrates also probably, but definitely Karl Marx and Ayn Rand, because a lot of the times most of the political regime that happens is through Karl Marx ideology, and most of the times whatever a human being is feeling like, indirectly or directly, Ayn Rand has got something beautiful to say about it. Now, one more thing why Ayn Rand is beautiful. Ayn Rand challenges the system of church. Ayn Rand challenges religion. Ayn Rand is also talking about many points which are irrelevant, whatever are seen as the fragment of a society that the society cannot live without, somewhere she's tried to challenge all of it. With a rebellious, intense look, she's also not been brutal. I mean, while challenging, she was not brutal, and she was very nice in the way she defended herself, which I think also makes for an interesting read. Because somebody who is blatantly going against the world and fighting and just dying and laughing and everything, it's always scary. I mean, while she did go against a lot of these mechanisms in the society, but she did go in a way that you can still question her. I mean, say for a Hitler, killing those many Jews is not even a point of conversation whether, oh, you know what is he right, is he wrong? There's no conversation there, correct? There's a full stop ending to it. But what Ayn Rand really does is she opens us to a question and to a plethora of debate where you and I can actually think about it. She leaves that vacuum open, because she's not a completely wrong, or somebody who's gone against the world, or somebody who's just who just stuck by what society says. She was neither black nor white in that sense. So she's also an interesting person for us to analyze. So all of that makes Ayn Rand a very, very interesting person. Now in our classes, we dwell deep into Ayn Rand's philosophy through our clubs and all of that. But most importantly, we are trying to just make sure that we create a vacuum where each one of us is also breathing and is feeling himself. And at the end of the day, as Ayn Rand very rightly mentions, that a human being's satisfaction is in his own hands and should be in his own hands. I think that's just a beautiful quote to end at. But I think Ayn Rand also leaves us with a lot of questions. So maybe in another episode we can debate whether Ayn Rand was actually correct or not. Or maybe just discuss something else about her. That's it. Thank you so much.